Syndicated source material.
Good evening, everybody. We are on our ways to finishing up the other half, the back half of this epic 14-part saga. Tonight, source material is covering parts 8 through 14, and we are going to have ourselves a ball, maybe. It's going to feel repetitive, but, of course, not steering this ship alone. I have a good friend of ours, the Rattlich and Broadcasting Network is so appreciative to have this person along to help us with some of the most beautiful visuals that have been given to our flagship show, The Long Road to Ruin, and the creator of Soul Exodus. And my favorite part is Sketchbook Saturday, Epic Benjamin J. Cologne. How do you do, sir?
Good evening. I have booze this week, just in case.
Now, we're waiting for Jason Teasley, who said he will be joining us here. Probably, I just saw him sign on Skype, so it'll probably be a couple minutes. Well, Teasley has joined us. Jason Teasley, how do you do, sir?
Hey, what's up, fellas? I'm half asleep and extremely tired.
Okay, a better question, will you be awake? I know you said you got an hour. Can you handle an hour?
I hope. These work is a little bit of trying and testing my podcasting abilities.
Once we get into later parts of this story, I may do some yelling, so that may keep you awake.
Because who can sleep with Angry Benjamin?
We're picking up with issue 8. Obviously, the cover. You're looking at the cover. We got some beautiful, absolutely stunning Tom Lyle artwork. If you can get a hold of this page, you want to frame it. But we see Venom with the sonic gun blasting Carnage. Benjamin, why don't you go ahead and give us your take on this cover just real quick. You need to spend a minute, if you want, just talking about what the heck's going on in this cover.
Tom Lyle really loves drawing leaning towers, doesn't he?
I don't know what dimension we're in here, where stuff is just... or, mind you, Venom that is awesome. He could just stand like he's perfectly standing on the ground, on the side of a building. At least I think that's what's going on here. I can't tell, dude. I have no idea.
Once again, the characters were drawn first and the background was drawn much later.
But the gist of issue 8, or part 8, are a group of superheroes pretty much come together to try and lure a trap for Carnage. And they enlist J. Jonah Jameson of the Daily Bugle to put out like an article or print a paper to get Carnage to come back to the asylum that he's from. Of course, Carnage falls for it. He goes back there with no problem, and most likely he knows what's going on. They go back to the orphanage, and we get a little bit of an origin story. Carnage talks about his past and how screwed up he was. Now, our heroes get the jump on the villains here, and we get a big fight. Morbius was told to hit the bricks. I don't know if it was last issue or the issue before, but he gets back into the fight. Our heroes have the weapons, and they're going to use them against Carnage. So we got the sonic gun, which is actually being handled by Venom. We have Firestar, who's blasting Carnage with heat. Our heroes pretty much are winning in this battle, and Firestar is just unrelenting and nailing him, and the symbiote suit is just dripping off of Kasady. Venom is about to kill Carnage. Spider-Man jumps in and stops him. And in the midst of that, Shriek is able to go over there. If we all remember, in the last podcast, we talked about Carnage pretty much pimp-slapped Shriek at one point. Well, Shriek gets her revenge and just smacks and scratches the crap out of his face, and he starts bleeding. What we established in the beginning of this series was about how the symbiote was in his blood. And as soon as the blood starts dripping from his face, the symbiote then immediately takes over. And Carnage, as beaten as he looked, gets right back up. And, of course, at the end he says, Carnage never dies. They've used all the weapons. They thought they had this guy beat, and it looked like they did, and he gets right back up. Now, one of the other things I should mention, there's a little bit of side story about how the rest of New York is practically going ape. Everybody's going crazy. Some people have still got their wits about them, and there's a little bit of the fight. Flash Thompson ends up showing up and stopping some ne'er-do-wells from doing any harm to, I think it was May and Pete's dad. What's his dad's name again there, Benjamin?
Richard.
Thank you. I was going to call him Henry. And Molten Man shows up. But anyway, chaos ensues amongst New York. So, Teasley, what do you guys say about Part 8 here? Anything stick out to you? Did you enjoy the little recap of Carnage's origin?
Issue 8 was, I love the way that it showed the little backstory for Carnage and how he just got shaped and twisted into the psychopath that he was in the orphanage, and justified why that he kind of went down the dark path that he did. Of course, who can't side with that chaotic psychopath?
Dude, there's a guy sitting there whipping him. If this is a young kid, obviously he's bullied. What we're getting a good shot of here is how he was treated as a young kid. And this actually will definitely come into play our last issue or second to last issue, just to give you a good idea of the reason behind the madness.
Yeah, you see the guy with the Indiana Jones whip, and he's got like 2 or 3 belts there. It looks like a kendo stick, a paddle, like a barbed wire chair.
Sandman.
Yeah, it's like he's straight out of an ECW Hall of Fame match or something. And Carnage says that they was way ahead of their time for the concept of tough love because of the beatings they received. Anybody at that young age is going to get like severely beating and just tortured and stuff is actually not going to be the most sociable and well adapted person growing up due to the beatings. So you can actually, it gives you a little bit of sympathy for Carnage, which is surprising because in any Carnage story to this point, you don't really see him as a sympathetic character, but they write him with just these few panels as him. You want to feel sorry for him due to the abuse he suffered in the orphanage.
Benjamin, what do you have to add here, man?
For starters, before the story proper even opens, the inside front cover of this individual comic has an ad for the Super Mario Brothers movie, which should give you a clue. That's got to be foreshadowing, doesn't it? Aside from that, these are the little inconsistency things that I was talking about that probably only I get because I'm OCD like that. If you'll recall, in Part 2 of Maximum Carnage, Carnage destroyed most of the sign at the top of the Daily Bugle building until only the word bug was left. It was supposed to be a message to Spider-Man and Venom that he was back and he had roughed up Jameson. Either Jameson had some expert quick repairs ordered to his sign despite New York City being locked up tight due to a citywide murdering spree by a family of homicidal freaks, or more likely the artists and editors dropped the ball. You decide. Him and Jameson and his strangely lopsided eyebrows in this first page.
Caterpillars.
Once you see that, you'll never be able to unsee it.
It's just caterpillars on his face.
They picked up a little bit on the thread that was left behind in Part 5 of the city escalating in violence. You mentioned that. That's going to keep coming into play. There's something about that I'm going to have to talk about pretty soon that annoyed me. But for now, it's going along pretty nicely. Nice cameos by Molten Man and Flash Thompson. The other thing is the heroes put a front page headline in the paper addressing for Carnage to come home to the orphanage he grew up in for some reason, and he does it.
Yeah.
Granted, these people are insane and have superpowers, but no one among them stopped to think that this might be a trap.
I'm going with, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he knew, and he just wanted to get into another fight. Because we see that happen.
I half expected like Admiral Akbar from Return of the Jedi to be on the next page off to one side about to say it.
I'm out of this.
I'm just curious how they printed out so many, got that in the paper so quick and got it onto the streets.
Yeah, and when we look at this whole series, again, I think we're only talking about like 2 nights. It can't be very long. Unless there's some time in here. Like, they open up, I assume it's daytime in the Bugle. It must be really early morning. Only I can get on that.
In the first Carnage storyline in Amazing Spider-Man, you get some hints of what Cletus Kasady is all about, and that he was orphaned and had a horrible, degenerate childhood. It seemed like the writers were piling on more and more of this just to hammer home. If you hadn't gotten it yet, if nobody picked up on this subtle writing, Carnage is really messed up. Carnage is... Step one, if you're writing a tragic, messed up, degenerate childhood of a character, name your child Cletus.
Yeah.
With apologies if you actually know somebody named Cletus in real life.
Southern West Virginia. There's at least 2 or 3 Cletuses in Walmart at any given time.
There you go. We got, at some point, Deathlock is actually freed from his imprisonment or whatever he's tied up in wires.
He got beat by a damn billboard sign. Let's just go ahead and put that right out there. Deathlock's greatest enemy, apparently, is a billboard sign.
It's Times Square.
Times Square wins every time.
That's hilarious.
He actually gets freed by Iron Fist, who not too many casual fans will know, but if you have a Netflix subscription, you're going to get to know Iron Fist pretty soon in the next year or two. The shorthand for Iron Fist is cross Bruce Lee with Bruce Wayne and add a little bit of mystical power to that. So it's like millionaire philanthropist who also is a martial arts expert, super mystical powers.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a shorthand for Iron Fist. I also mentioned, I don't remember who I mentioned this to, but if I had remembered to, I wanted to start a hashtag on Twitter called Fight Carnage Fight every time we get into a fight scene in each one of these parts. But I did that just a little too late. I came up with that a little too late.
That's all right. I got it out there. I got at least one of those out there. I'm glad you touched on Iron Fist there. Again, we've got a new issue. We've got a new hero showing up. Iron Fist has made his presence known, rescuing Deathlock.
Hi, Morbius, 3 pages from the end of this issue.
Yeah, he's back. Right back into it. Just figure out where the destruction is, and then he goes right there. All right. Let's get to the next issue, which is going to be Part 9 of Maximum Carnage, and that is Spectacular Spider-Man 202. I didn't give the issue on the first one. Let me look at that again. Part 8 was Spider-Man number 36. Adjectiveless, folks. All right, so Part 9, Spectacular. Now, we're getting back into Spectacular, which you clued us into last week, Benjamin, about how the writers here, as each title we're getting a different writer. J.M. DeMatteis I've grown to appreciate what he's done with the series. You see a good bit of that happen in Part 9. Our battle continues with our heroes and villains. We got Spider-Man, Venom, Morbius, Cloak. By the way, Cloak is still tore up. Notice I didn't say Cloak and Dagger, because Dagger died in between parts 1 through 7. Can't remember which part. But Dagger died, so Cloak is still tore up and really has a hard-on for vengeance is probably the best way to put it. Black Cat and Firestar. So our battle continues. There's a point in this battle where Firestar makes a comment to Spider-Man about how, dude, you're teamed up with some people that are not really, it doesn't feel too like a very heroic code, I guess you would say. These guys are out for blood. Black Cat, Cloak, and Venom all lean more toward the vigilante side, say the more hardcore anti-hero side, because they're out for blood against these guys. They're going to stop Carnage and his goons, because it doesn't matter what it takes. If they have to kill these guys, they will. Firestar recognizes that and gets in Spider-Man's ear during this issue. And we find out that Shriek is actually the cause of all this madness in New York City. I had no idea the power set of Shriek going into this. We find out she also has psychic powers that can influence people, and they're I don't know about driving them mad, but she can make them very, very angry. And she's like this radiant bomb that's going off in New York and causing all these people to go absolutely nuts. So we find out in this issue there's the struggle of killing Carnage or not. Firestar has Carnage on the ropes, and we see she's just nailing him with her microwave heat. And I love this page where Spider-Man, Firestar is just, all you see is their face. You don't see any action. Firestar is drilling him after Spider-Man gave her the go-ahead to go ahead and nail him with whatever you got, and if you got to kill him, do it. So Spider-Man struggles with that, and Venom's on the other side of her screaming, do it, kill him. And you can see the intensity in her face in the first set of panels, and then it lets up as it goes on. Of course, Spider-Man realizes what he's doing. He's telling her to murder this guy. He immediately starts yelling, stop, don't do it. She stops. Kasady is laying there, a Carnage wreck. The suit is just dripping off of him. Venom, of course, goes and grabs a hold of Cletus Kasady, and he's going to, again, try to kill him. That's not until he tries to get his licks in on Firestar for stopping. He gets so pissed at Firestar that he grabs her, and Venom's going to try and kill Firestar because she didn't kill Kasady in the first place. He actually hits Spider-Man and sends him higher than some trees. The guy's going at least 3 or 4 blocks. Just to give you an idea of how powerful Venom is, he just backhands Spider-Man and sends him flying. Well, when he turns to Carnage to try and finish him off, Shriek is over there helping him out, trying to get him up. They turn around and get the upper hand on Venom. Shriek attacks him. Again, Shriek has these sonic powers, and the suit does not like sonics. She starts nailing him. Carnage joins in, and Eddie Brock, the Venom suit's nowhere to be seen, just laying around him, and they start pounding on him until he's not conscious. They set him in the shadow of a tree to give you the ominous idea, dude. I don't know what is up with his arms, but it looks bad. Eddie Brock's out, and Carnage and Shriek are off. They grab him, and they leave with Eddie Brock. Now, Spider-Man, he's 3 or 4 blocks away, coming back, trying to figure out what happened. Carnage and Shriek are off to torture Venom, Eddie Brock / Venom. And that is where we end Part 9. Our heroes are laying in a heap. Spider-Man's trying to get up. Somebody shows up.
At the very end of this issue, in a 2-page spread, which not everybody likes, but in a huge 2-page spread that you have to turn on its side, we see Captain America, his head framed by the full moon like a halo. You can hear the angels sing and radiant choir music in your head as he offers his hand in assistance to Spider-Man.
Totally didn't even see the moon. Did not even see that. That is just too over the top.
You got to frame Cap up to be the Boy Scout that he is, and the Savior, and the all wholesome goodness that we all know and love that is Captain America. But I'm going to go a different route here. The fact that Venom starts showing his hatred for Spider-Man and everybody simply because they don't have the guts to kill Carnage and do what needs to be done, which also it shows Spider-Man's nothing but a pussy. I think it's more the writing and the inconsistency of the writing, and you can see it throughout this whole arc is you portray Spider-Man one way one issue, and then they recon it. The next issue, he's completely different. He's got a whole different tone. It comes to light, especially in this one, because Spider-Man's a teenage girl in this one. He makes a decision, realizes what the consequences of his decision is, and then says, "Oh no, I screwed up. Please stop." So and like I said, it's more of an attribute to the inconsistency of writing and how none of the writers had a flowing function on how the story should go.
I don't completely disagree about the inconsistency in the writing, and that the writers doing the story didn't seem like they were talking to each other. Each writer seemed like they had their own idea of how they wanted the characters to be portrayed, and they all conflicted with each other from time to time. What I didn't like is the writer, and J.M. Demeter specifically in this issue, clearly wanted you to side with Spider-Man and Firestar, but they're made to look so passive and ineffectual that you really can't, which leaves you with no one to side with, because Venom and his people are all psychopaths, and part of you wants to see them get horrible, bloody revenge, but these are not good people, and not much good is going to come from them being the only ones standing either. And it's something you're going to be seeing more of in this story, which is make character A look better than character B by writing character B way out of character, or in such a way that character A outshines character B, which is really tends to be pretty lazy and bad writing. You're going to start seeing that, particularly now that we see Captain America show up. To his credit, Demetrius seems to be the only writer working on the story who seemed even the least bit interested in Shriek as an actual character, instead of just arm candy for Carnage and eye candy for the readers. Although, by the way, Shriek can amplify her own pain with her sound blast. That would be new power number 2, introduced in part 9. Later on in the same issue, new power number 3, which is transmitting insanity to others. Now, this is what I wanted to get into that I did not like, and I don't know how you guys feel about this. This was disappointing for a number of reasons. The idea at first was that the city was going crazy. The madness of Carnage was bringing out people and empowering something that they already had inside him. It was bringing out everybody's dark side. Everybody who was already a violent lowlife was coming out of the woodwork and using what Carnage was doing as an excuse to go out and hurt people and make things worse. That could have been a commentary on a number of things, something really interesting. It could have been a commentary on how comics were in the 90s, the escalation of violence. It could have been a commentary on New York City in the 90s, which was very violent and not a very nice place for a good long while, and all the casual violence and murder. But they decided not to do that. What it ends up being is nobody's responsible for what they're doing. It's all Shriek, which I really dislike, and I think it's a cop-out. This story was probably not meant to be any deep meditation on really particularly deep issues, but they had an opportunity to make it a little bit more than it was, and they copped out of it. I don't like that at all. It's just disappointing that they decided to just wave it away as the supervillain has psychic, mind control, insanity powers, and that's all it is, and there's nothing else to see here. Maybe Firestar nearly killing Carnage is actually a decent scene. I like how that played out. It might have hit better if Spider-Man hadn't already immediately backpedaled on his whole no mercy thing from part 5. If he was relentless up till this point, and then he actually sees that's in action and Carnage is begging for his life, and he realizes, oh shit, I really can't do this. This is not who I am. And then decides to back off after he's pushed so far up until this point. But the thing is, he went back on it immediately, almost from the moment that he did it. So it doesn't it doesn't have as much impact as it should. It just comes off like Spider-Man whining some more, which he's been doing pretty consistently up to this point. I took a note, like, thank God in part 10 he actually gets to kick some ass again.
Make sure to check us out tomorrow as Maximum Carnage continues, right here on the Source Material Comics Podcast.